What are some effective craft writing books? In this episode, we're going to share 5 of our favorites. Welcome back to Coffee with the Authors, where we decode the craft and business of writing.
So the first book I want to talk about is one that's kind of a perennial favorite, which is Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. There are a number of really good takeaways in this book, but beyond that, it just gives you the overall sense that, yeah, you can write. It's not magical. It has to do with kind of getting in touch with yourself. It's something that pretty much any human can do if they really want to do it. It's inspiring in that regard. For example, she gives you permission to write a shitty first draft, and which is just such an empowering thing for a beginning writer who's never had anybody say that to them. Maybe they've had some classes and they're expected to turn in their work. Their very first work is being graded by a teacher. Like, can you imagine you're starting a brand new art form and the very first things that you do are going to get judged? And so she's saying, no, don't worry about that. Go ahead and write that crappy first draft, and you can always expand upon that. Another thing she talks about is the 1-inch square picture frame. In other words, don't try to put the whole world into your book. Just find one small aspect of it, focus on that, and that can kind of stand in or represent kind of the broader existence around you. And the third thing she talks about is writing over publishing. In other words, when you're writing, think about the story you want to tell, think about where it comes from within you, think about what it means to the rest of the world. Don't think about how am I going to get this published? What do I need to do to get this published? How do I contact an agent or an editor and all that other stuff? Get that stuff out of your mind and just worry about the work itself.
What I really also like about that book is that it gives you insights into those emotions that you're having that you feel like are bad emotions to have about maybe other people's success. It gives you permission to feel those feelings, and it lets you know that everybody feels that way. Another favorite of ours is On Writing by Stephen King. I love the storytelling aspect of this book. It's very engaging. It's an easy book to read. One big takeaway from it is that the road to hell is paved with adverbs.
Yes, it is.
Overuse of adverbs, overuse of adjectives, and he gives really good insights on how you can streamline things to have less of those adverbs and adjectives.
And another one I want to talk about is Emotional Structure by Peter Dunn. And this is the book that kind of gets into more of those kind of emotional aspects of your story. And to me, the big takeaway here is he talks about the difference between plot and story. And that plot are the events of your story. They're what happens during the story. And the story itself is not about those events. The story is about the character and how they respond to those events. And with the goal being, you never want to forsake your story just for the sake of plot. So a phrase I use that kind of relates to this is the mannequin is not the dress. The mannequin is the structure upon which you build the dress. In other words, it's the plot, and the dress is the story. And the point being, you could have 10 different dressmakers, and they could all use the exact same mannequin. And you tell them, make a dress that fits this mannequin, and they would all make a dress. Would they all be the same dress? Not at all. That comes from the dressmaker's choices, stylistic choices, emotional choices, how they kind of feel about the world at that moment in time. It's got very little to do with the actual structure. You could hang a brilliant story on just about any structure and find a way to make it work. There are a lot of words around plot structure on the internet, online in general, just volume and books and videos and all about this Boolean layout of plots.
It's easy to quantify.
It is.
It's easy to have a system of writing for.
Writing system. We're going to dive into that a little bit later, but in the meantime, Emotional Structure by Peter Dunn is just a great entree into this topic.
And the next book is Zen in the Art of Writing by Ray Bradbury. I'm a Ray Bradbury fan, so I found this book particularly engaging. And also Ray Bradbury's Dandelion Wine. I read it as an adult, but it became the impetus for me writing books for younger people. It had a big influence on my life, and his book on writing did as well. He has a philosophy where you create a character and then you just allow them to run free.
Yeah.
Which to me is the fun part of writing. I really do enjoy following my characters around. And even though a lot of the books that I write are mysteries and they're well plotted, there's this aspect of following your character around which makes it joyful. It feels like you're going on an adventure with your characters. And we'll talk about organic writing more later, but as far as Ray Bradbury's book, it reinforced the sense that I could go ahead and do that. So his advice about that wound up helping me write my first successfully published novel. He also discusses how you should write what you care about and trust your subconscious. And I think those are two very valuable traits to adopt.
And now we come to probably my favorite book on writing, which is Hope in the Mail by a woman I've really never heard of named Wendelin Van Draanen. My unbiased opinion of it, it has several really good takeaways. It's very inspirational. It'll make you want to write, which is something not all of these books do. This book makes you want to just get out there and write. And it talks about the concept of story ideas being all around you in your daily life. It's like little seeds, and they're everywhere. You just have to kind of notice them, pick them up, put them in your pocket, take them home. The real secret is not only do you have to recognize them, but then you have to water them and take care of them. And so if you just take a seed and leave it there on the tabletop, nothing's going to happen. But if you put it in the dirt and give it some water and give it some fertilizer and give it some sunlight, it may sprout into a wonderful idea for a book. The actual title of that book, Hope in the Mail, came from the concept of putting your stuff out into the universe and giving someone a chance to say yes to you. This is the way you get success, of course, is you have to keep taking shots over and over and over, and sooner or later you make one of those long shots. But also, in the meantime, it's good for your mental health, because just knowing you have something out there, whether or not it hits or not, but just knowing you have something out there is good for your attitude. It's good for your mood. It just makes you feel like you have hope. Something's out there in the universe. I put some hope out in the mail today, and I'm going to get on with my day.
I do want to share why I wrote the book, because I feel like a lot of people are in the shoes that I was walking in when I was trying to break into publishing. And so I had a full-time job and 2 little kids, and trying to find time in your day to do that creative thing you really want to do. And it's hard. There's so much, especially on us women, that we're expected to do in any given day. When do we have time to do the thing that we really want to do?
Right.
So, woo! This was my way of sharing with people who are feeling like I felt, that it is possible. These are some techniques for fitting in that little bit of time that you can work on your manuscript. Fit in every day. Find time for yourself every day. Because if I could write just a couple of pages every morning before I went to work, by the time the year was over, I had myself a Sammy Keyes book. It's those little steps, but finding the time and finding the way to make those little steps. So the reason I wrote Hope in the Mail was because there was that long period of time where Mark encouraged me, keep putting hope in the mail, keep putting yourself out there. And he also said, you don't know, today could be the day. And that really is true. As long as you have hope in the mail, today could be the day that you get your yes. But if you don't keep putting yourself out there, that's not going to happen. So Hope in the Mail is my encouraging love letter to people who are trying to juggle way too many things and really have in their heart a desire to write. Okay, so thanks for joining us on this episode of Coffee with the Authors. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you got something useful out of it, some inspiration from it, and that you'll come back and have another quick cup of coffee with us sometime soon. Meanwhile, dream big, work hard, put some hope in the mail, don't give up,
and keep writing.
No, why do I like that? You think after all this time I wouldn't become this blubbering idiot?
Thank God. Thank God.
Gosh.